So the Maimer ki Yeshalcha, first Maimer here. So it's Tafshin Lamed Ches, and the Rebbe was Magia in Tafshin Nun. And as it says on the bottom of the page, page 3, that the Rebbe was Mechalik the Maimer L'kol Echad V'Echad Me'anashim Nashim V'Taf. So it actually makes this Maimer ganz unique. B'chlal, the Seder, the Rebbe started the Chalukah of Mamorim in Tafshin Mem Ches Be'ikir. Meaning in the earlier years there was Mechalik Tanya a few times. There were Chalukis Pratius, to Shluchim, to different kvutzes that came, of different koivtzim. But the end of the Chalukah of Mamari Chassidus, Betzim started Tavshim Mem Ches. The Rebbe then gave out Hicholzu Chaf Cheshvan Tavshim Mem Ches to all boys over 12, all girls over 11, Mufla Samach Lish. Then, B'Hamshach Lezeh, there were Chalukahs already to everybody. But there was a chalukah right after Yecholta. There was a chalukah by the Kinnis HaShluchim then, where the Rebbe was talking mechalik his own maimer. Yishafti b'shalom. B'vayta, that was a chalukah. You could call it chalukah pratis. It was chalukah to the shluchim. The Rebbe was very medayik, was considered a shliach then. Hemshech lezeh already started chalukahs hanashim nashim etah. But the chalukahs were while they were kontresim of chassidus, the Rebbe wasn't mechalik his own mamarim, his own sichas as a kontres. The first few years, the chalukahs were all from the Rebbeim. Maimer the Friedrich, Maimer from the Tzemach Tzedek, Kuntris from this Rebbe, from that Rebbe. I believe that Ki Yeshalcha was the first Maimer that Rebbe was Mechalik, the Kol Echad V'Echad, Me'anashim Nashim V'Taf. The Rebbe was Mechalik, his own Maimer was Ki Yeshalcha, Tafshin Nun. After that, it already became more ragil, ad kedekach that in the end of Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, where there were many Chalukis, came out all the Chalukis were the Rebbe's Amar and Sichas. The Kuntris Chav Chesivin was already. What was the Mamarim of Chav Chesivin, the Kurtnos Chav Yishvav, the Rebbe Sichs Mamarim and Hashem Yisrael, etc., etc. Throughout Nun Beis, there were many Chalukas. They were almost all of the Rebbe's Torah. This was the first one. This Chalukah was in the Rebbe's house, Tafshin Nun. You know that Tafshin Mem Ches after Chav Yishvat, so the Rebbe was in his house for the next year, Kimat. Then the Rebbe moved back to 770. But even after that, there were times that Rebbe went back and forth to the house. The winter of Tafshin Nun came out the whole winter. During the week, the Rebbe was in the house. They would be in the house from Monday to Thursday, Berech. And this went on by the Chodshei HaChoyref, Tafshin Nun, and pretty much until Pesach, Tafshin Nun. So Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe was in the house. The Rebbe did the Chaluk in the house. And after Pesach, the Rebbe moved back to 770, and pretty much from then on, the Rebbe was in 770, Kimat the entire time. Besides for small stints going back home, as he goes to Menaklal. So that's why. So this chalukah, there weren't many chalukahs of chassidus in the Rebbe's house. This chalukah was in the Rebbe's house. So that's the Maimer ki Yeshalcha. Now the fact that the Rebbe did, how many mamorim would the Rebbe give out throughout all the years and later years? There weren't that many. In other words, the Rebbe handpicked svarim and koivtzim of chassidus, mamorim of chassidus to give out, and this is one of the mamorim. So it shows on its chavivas. I'm going to give it out at home. So that's the erste zach. The zweite Zach is, and we're talking about this, just be magish, and also going to come back to it later, is the Rebbe brings in Sif Gimel that Yuvin ze behektim ashkas chak mechad mur b'mori d'maschol zeh sha'omrei b'chag ha'pesach harishim evoy la'artzis abris amanas ladur. So one of the kids they brought the Haggah that initially I believe it was written b'pam hashniya. They were changing to amanas ladur. And this is an interesting work because the Chayrim Amar are not a history channel, and it's not a place to explain to us when each Maimer was said and where it's said. But you see this throughout Malukit, and also in Sichis and the Fabrengens, the Rebbe had a special chavivis for the Mamarim and Sichis that were said this year, the year of Tafshin, which is when the Friedrich Rebbe came for the second time. But the first time he came, Taf Reish Tzadik. Taf Reish Peites, Friedrich Rebbe went on a trip starting with Eretz Yisrael. As the Rebbe would say often, that it wasn't Eretz Yisrael as much as it was that he couldn't go to the Kavarim, instead of the Kavarim went to Eretz Yisrael. L'hamshich lezeh, a big part of the year Tafresh Tzadik, he was in America. Tishrei Tafresh Tzadik, Friedrich Rebbe was here from Bringden, New York. But that was a visit, so it wasn't a kvius. Mashenkin over here was Manas Loder, a kvius. In the Sikha of Purim Tafshin Dalad Mem, so right before the Maimer, the Rebbe says the Maimer Belaylahu, that's Miyosna Belaylahu, Tafshin, so Belaylahu is Mamish, the first Maimer Friedrich Rebbe said in America. The Friedrich Rebbe came Tes Adar, and this is Purim. So there, the Rebbe gives a whole arichis about the chavivis and what makes this Rebbe they are speaking about the first Maimer B'lai Lahu, what makes it unique. That the Friedrich Rebbe came to America, even though he was there before, and everything that a Yid does, definitely a Tzaddik does, is a kviyas, command the kviya damya. We know the Rebbe always quote from Friedrich Rebbe. They asked the Friedrich Rebbe, Mashiach's coming any day, why are we building moistus? And the Friedrich Rebbe answered, and in the Midbar, Kasher Yachnu Ken Yiso, in the Midbar there were 42 Masas over 40 years, but it wasn't a Masa per year. Some were 18 years, and some Masas were a night, a few days. And yet, nevertheless, wherever they stopped, the ganze, because it was Al-Pi Ratzin Hashem, Al-Pi Das of the Kodesh Baruch Hu, so it's a kviyas. So it's all bezach da, even though Mashiach's coming but every moment is a kviyas. So Ein HaChanam, the first time Friedrich Rebbe came was a kviyas. Aber it's a kumnish to the kviyas from the Manas Loder. And in Andere Werter, it seems that the Rebbe looks at Tafshin is not just another year of Chassidus, but it's the beginning of the American Chassidus of America. So the first Maimer is the Pasach, it's the Psichsat Sinner of the Chassidus in America. So that's when we get to the first Maimer, but the whole Tafshin is about first year, especially these Mamarim, you're talking about Pesach, it's still Mamish the Erste Mamarim in America. So the Rebbe, it seems that the Rebbe saw these Mamarim as the beginning of the American Chassidus. Now, what's made the American Chassidus? It's not American Bachar, it's American Chassidus. And the American Chassidus is the Hadgashes, which now, after so many years, so many sikhs and of the Rebbe, we see it in the Rebbe's Torah, certain in Yon and the Mamish Boilet. The Dugme, in Basi Lagani, Tafshin Yud Aleph, the Maimon Kabbalah and Asiyas, severe, the Rebbe also brings from Tafshin, from the first year in America, where there the Rebbe speaks about Atikra Vayikra Vayakri and the Mesiras Nefesh, the difference between the Mesiras Nefesh of Avraham Avinu and Rebbe Akiva. Now, the Rebbe doesn't say this clearly, but the Rebbe were speaking about the Avodah of Deir Shvi, and we're looking at we want the Avodah of Mesiras Nefesh of Avraham Avinu, not Rebbe Akiva. Rebbe Akiva gezucht Mesiras Nefesh. Avraham Avinu zucht Mesiras Nefesh. When dark Mesiras Nefesh, we'll use Mesiras Nefesh. So while the Rebbe doesn't say it explicitly, but it's mamish the chiddush of Chassidus in America and Deir Shvi. Right? In Russia, by the Friedrich Rebbe, for Ker, the Beferish Avodah was zucht Mesiras Nefesh. That was mamish the Avodah, Rebbe Akiva. There's L'shoinus of the Friedrich Rebbe, where Friedrich Rebbe says, it was mamish during the Shveret Zeit, and he says, Chevre, chap Mesiras Nefesh. Zuch Mesiras, chap Mesiras Nefesh. Mamish Avodah Rebbe Akiva, because there the Avodah was Mesiras Nefesh. In America, Zuch Mesiras Nefesh. Avodah is to do what you gotta do. If you need Mesiras Nefesh, you do Mesiras Nefesh. It's a different kind of Mesiras Nefesh. So there it's mamish boilet, that the Rebbe started with Menasiyas, and the Rebbe and right there, the Rebbe brings this Nekudah from Tafshin, that this is the Avodah here. Here, I don't know if it's not that explicit over here, and it's not that clear, but here as well, as we'll learn the Mamarim, especially this Maimer of Yeshalch, you see that in this Maimer, Mamish touches upon Ubafla a lot of the Yesoidis in the Rebbe's Torah, in the Rebbe's Sichis, in the Rebbe's Mamarim, themes that the Rebbe goes back to again and again and again. Here, Mamish brought out very, very well and very Mesuder Kiviyachol, and especially, we'll get back to this soon, we'll see how the Rebbe learns this Shiloh, the Friedrich Rebbe in Tafshin, different than the way the Friedrich Rebbe himself learns it. And the Rebbe uses it to come to a new beer, different than the regular beer that the Chassidus has Bichlal, that starts off this Maimer in Sif Aleph, but in this Maimer Tafshin, the Rebbe sees the beginning of a new Mahalach in Ki Yishalcha that connects to a lot of Yisoidis in the Rebbe's Torah that we'll get to. So in the flow of this Maimer, so let's say a few, it's from two sides. You could call it the Kalim of the Maimer and the Oiris of the Maimer. So the Kalim of the Maimer, first of all, is Pasha the Seder, the Mahalach of the Maimer. Right? So in general, Malukit, many of the Maimer are written as a Seder, there's a Shaila, an answer, and a Shaila, and a Biur. But Ki Yishalcha is Mamish, there's many layers here, there's a Shaila, there's an answer, there's a deeper question, a deeper answer, and it goes weiter and weiter, and ultimately it comes all full circle, it's very geschmack. But also the oisius that the Rebbe uses, or there is a Marim, we discussed this in other Mamorim as well. In the Mamorim, there's the Kalim, there's the oisius, and then there's the Toichin. So what are the Kalim? You could say the Kalim here of the Maimon. The Kalim, besides for the Shaila, Ki Yishalcha, and the Ben Chacham, the kelim is the sugya of Eidos, Chukim, and Mishpatim, which weiter is one of the sugyas that are mamish la'orkel l'rach with the Rebbe's Torah. It's not really a sugya that you'll find that much in Chassidus before the Rebbe, and by the Rebbe it's mamish a sugya gedola. We have it on the drive as well. The koivitz after Gimel Tammuz, Rabbi worked on a few koivitzim based on the Rebbe's Torah. I think it finished with 2 koivitzim, and then he moved into other styles. It was my Chanukah, and there's Eidos Chukim Mishpatim in the Rebbe's in the Mishnasi Shal Rebbe in the Rebbe's Torah. The Eidos Chukim Mishpatim is mamish a sugya shlema, and it's very mumlitz to look at the that work itself and the Makairis there for states of the Sichas and the Marim. Some of them are Mitzuyin here in the Maimer and the Maimer Koimas. So Eidos Chukim Mishpatim is the platform through which the Rebbe goes through the sugya and goes through the Maimer. That itself is a very gishmak sugya. And then you go more the oiris, the toichin of the Maimer, the toichin advarim is also classic. It's Malas Soyev ben Atzmos, which happens to match up with Eidos Chukim Mishpatim. Malas Soyev ben Atzmos, and the way the Rebbe is invited by Riches, the Chiyuv and Shlila Sashlila. Gerade, we're coming off from the Maimer of Purim, Al Kin Karu. There's a lot of parallels. Well, we'll use the Lashonis from there. There, the Lashonis were Seichel, Ratzin, Goyrol, and Bchira. And here we have Mishpatim, Chukim, and Eidos, right? And there's Chidushim in this Mahalach, in this Oifen al Limud than over the previous Maimer. We'll get to that as Hashem later. But with the same Nekuda, it's the same inviter. You see it throughout, and ultimately that flush of it up, just like we finished last Maimer, that it's not just Bchira the way it's moved from Goyrol, it's Bchira the way it's in Slavish in Goyrol. So the same thing here. We'll have the Eidos mitzad echad is higher than everything else. Atzmos is higher than Mala and Soivet. Tzacheni, V Sedrik Tzecheis, and how it's in Schaber with Chukim and Mishpat. Because at the end of the day, the Eibush doesn't want things to stay only in the way of Eidos, only in the way of Atzmos. Fine. Now, when you get to in this Maimer itself, so in the first Sif, Yeshaelch, so the Rebbe brings a shaila that's brought in the Drushim, and the answer that's brought in the Drushim. Right? The shaila is Yadu Adik with Drushim Abseinu Sienu. The Rebbe brings here from Dalid, Ateres, Tafshin, and other Mamarim. And then there's the answer in the second ket of Sif Aleph, Nekudas Abir V'Zeba Drushim. Right? Where the shaila is the what's Tziva that the Ben Chacham says Tziva Vayli Keinu Eschem, and what's the Eschem? He's part of it, and he's not a Rashi, not Yitzmi Naklal. Well, Nachmer, the fact that he says Oisana Asher Tziva Vayli Keinu, he is including himself in Klal Yisrael. So he is including himself. He doesn't say Rachman al Tzan She'en Lichelik L'Kei Yisrael. So what's the pshat Eschem? So the beer that's brought in the Drushim, right? I'm going to point this out now because it's important to know this for later, right? The Drushim. So there's here he brings also the Amari Admar and say wasn't brought earlier, and then there's a Teres and Tafshin. Vayakim Eidos, he finishes the 14th. Vayakim Eidos Hemshech LaMaimer Demasal Yeshaelch. I believe that there's both Amarim here in the Koivitz. Where the question is in the first Maimer and is in Yeshaelch, and the answer is in Vayakim Eidos. So the Rebbe's been saying here to the Maimer of the Friedrich Rebbe, but then he's been saying later because something changes there. What's the Nekuda answer? The Nekuda answer is that the reason why he says Eschem is because he is trying to exclude, but not himself. He's not trying to exclude himself. He's trying to exclude the previous Doiris. Who's speaking here? The child of the parents that leave Mitzrayim. Right? It's in Parshas Boy. With Derech Halacha, we learn that Yeshaelch is speaking about Yitzias Mitzrayim. So the child asks his father after they left down the line, but the father that left Yitzias Mitzrayim and received the Torah 50 days later, and so the child is excluding the grandparents and the great grandparents, the previous doiras, the Avis, and the Shvatim, those that went in Derech Avis. He's excluding them. So he says Eschem to say you and not others, not the previous days. Why is he excluding the Avis? Because what's bothering him is, and this would answer the other questions that are brought in the Maimer. The Ben Chacham doesn't know about mitzvahs, doesn't know what the Teichim of mitzvahs are, all the questions he asked in the beginning of Sif Aleph. And the Vart is that the Ben Chacham course he appreciates the mitzvahs. What he doesn't understand is their klap kap and vant when it comes to mitzvahs achar matan Torah. The mitzvahs of before matan Torah, the mitzvahs of the avos makes a lot of sense. The new mitzvahs he doesn't get. Now, just understand the ben chacham, the ben chacham, right? He asks the Yishאלך till ben chacham doesn't know anything. Now, what's interesting in the Maimer is, it also makes the Maimer very unique, that by the time the Maimer is done, there's going to be many layers and levels to the question and the answer to Ben Chacham. And ultimately, like, which question is he actually asking, right? There's many questions here. Right? You come and say, but what's clear is already in the beginning, the Ben Chacham is a Yid was learning Chassidus. Right? This question, the initial question that Chassidus asks, the way Chassidus understands it and Chassidus answers, the Drush and Michlal, it's a Chassidus Yeshayla. Right? Because you could say, what's the point of these mitzvahs? It's tradition, culture, you do things. It's a way. But Erveis was Chassidus, or what does Chassidus teach us? Chassidus teaches us that mitzvahs are Amshachas Alikos. Mitzvahs are Tzavs Alechibur, but the Neibishten, so maybe the mitzvahs of the Avos were all about Ruchnius to make sense. The Eibishter is Ruchni, or Klopani is not Gashmi. And we're connecting to the Eibishter with our hearts, with our minds. Yispoidinos, Avavira, fine. So, the Iker is the Ruchnis, that makes sense. But now comes Matan Torah. Matan Torah tells you it's all about a Maisa Iker, it's all a Maisa B'Poil. What's a Maisa B'Poil with the neighbors? And B'Hemshech Lezeh comes the answer. B'Hemshech Lezeh in the Maimer, there's going to be many questions of the, many Yifanim, and some of them are even contradictory. There are going to be paradoxical questions and answers. How we understand the Ben Chacham. It's on the Shabbat of all these Shailas are, it's not coming from ignorance, it's coming from deep Havana, deep Yediyah. And it's almost like one leads to the next. Once you understand the first question and answer, then the Ben Chacham comes the next year by the Seder and asks, and then then why? Right? So it's a journey that you're constantly asking questions, giving answers. But by the time you reconcile one issue, the opposite issue arises, then you have to reconcile that as well until you find an answer that resolves everything. Now, here the Shaila is, if the mitzvahs of the Avos were Beruchnius, so what's the place of the Pu'ula Begashmius that the Avos did? Right, because the Ben Chacham doesn't understand the Teichen of the mitzvahs at Maisius today. The Avos, he understands. Fine. So, Mashallah, Rama Vino, from 3 years old till 48, right, there's different Gersois, when Hikr is Bayre, the way the Rebbe learns that all the Midrashim, it's different stages in Avram's Hakara. Till Hitzitzil Allah Balabira. And Avram comes, builds a connection and becomes aware of the Eibishter. So if a relationship with the Eibishter is about Havana Basagya and Midas, then why Bechlal did we do any Maisa Mitzvahs? When it comes to Pesach, we're talking about Matzahs here. When the earthly caves, it says that Avram brought Matzahs. And many mitzvahs that were done, there were many Maisa mitzvahs. So what's the Teichen of the Maisa mitzvahs? So the way that Rebbe says in the beginning of the second kata of Sif Aleph, Kiyam mitzvahs shall always haya in Sugayim be'ikar avodah ruchnis, because there was an element of Gashmis here. Pula shal sebegashmis hoysa ke'ein kli lo avodah ruchnis. That's the lashon. They did pulas begashmis, but what was the taken of pulas begashmis? It was ke'ein kli. Interesting lashon. Ke'ein kli lo avodah ruchnis. Nishmamash the kli ke'ein kli. Masha'enki the mitzvahs that were given by Matan Torah, the ikar is ma'aseh b'poil. It says at length that Ad Kedei Kach, person has all the kavanas to eat matzah, but you didn't actually eat matzah, you weren't yoytz in the mitzvah. Shenkin, you eat matzah without any kavana, it brings on bottom that by matzah, even if you don't have the kavana, latzis dechevasa, you're yoytz. Right, so you force this guy Nebuch to eat matzah, and he's yoytz. Then you have a chevreman that learns gan sharei mona and learns all the mamarim on matzah, but he slept through it, or he couldn't find matzahs. He's stuck in Siberia, and there's nishyetz. Because the mitzvahs they are ma'aseh b'poil, but by the others they were ma'aseh b'poil. So you say, what's the place of ma'aseh b'poil? So we have to understand why Taka was their fart ma'aseh b'poil then, and then once we understand the ma'aseh b'poil then, the flow of the ma'aseh b'poil today is a lot stronger. So the emes is that this sugya of the mitzvahs of Koinat and Torah, and Achamat and Torah, the Rebbe's Torah is weiter mamish a very atheistic sugya brought a lot. So here in page 109, a lot of Marim Koimas. Look at the Sichas about the earlier Chalakim. And the different Sichas, he uses different oisias. Sometimes it's more technical, and sometimes it's more Pnimis Inyan. So sometimes, Mizakta Apash Davar, what's the Nikoda? The Take, the obvious Mitzida, wouldn't do anything Begashmis. They're Nashim Ruchnim, their whole Indian is Ruchnis. They're Avoid is Ruchnis. Elamai, because Maisa of is similar Bonim, and the Bonim, meaning after Matan Torah, Avodah is Maisa Bepoil, but if the others will only do their Avodah, Beruchnius, we won't be able to learn from them, we won't be able to get any koyach from them. So Batson, their Avodah is Ruchni, our Avodah is Gashmi. What they did is they did epis something begashmi, is kilo mein achiza. Like the Rebbe brings often, the Rebbe explains when you get to give me $, and when you get to Contrasim and other inyanim, that they would bring the Ramban, that the Nevi'im, when they would give over Nevuah, they would do a pull of gashmis, or hold on something begashmis. That's it, they should have an achiza. So the obvious is something begashmis, to have an achiza to our avodah begashmis. It was it's very, very chitzonistic azach, or even when you hear, you realize it's not the full word, because if taka they no shaykhs to the gashmias, then it's not a game. You can't play as if you have a shaykhs to the gashmias. I want to have a shaykhs somebody I have no shaykhs, so I play as if I'm him. Other hasiyas, other has nicht. Some sikhs the Rebbe says a word that because the ovis were merkava, it says in Tanya the ovis were merkava b'chol ivrei and v'gidei. So their guf, their gashmias was bottled to the Eibishter and Gans. The Ratzon Hashem. So if right now they're connected to the Eibishter, you can't differentiate by the others their neshamas from their gufim. Their gufim, just like a merkava follows the rider, doesn't have an opinion, even a horse that will follow. At the end of the day, I can't call it pchire, but the horse could decide to stop. The merkava can't stop. If its wheels break, but that's something chitzoni. Right? The merkava just follows where the rider takes him. So their gufim automatically just followed. So they're gufim. They're chelke be'oilom. They're pulis gashmis. They were serving the Eibishter beruchnis. It had some manifestation begashmis, right? Which is already more pneumistic of art. But weiter. So it's mamish not. And what's the kli? So what's the kli? The kein kli la'avodah ruchnis. So the kein kli la'avodah ruchnis seems that we're saying more, that there is a mokim, there is something important about the gashmias, elamai, as much as it serves as a kli to the ruchnis. So the dogma, there's a mashal that the Rebbe brings a few places in Likutei Sichos. The Rebbe brings this v'negeya to Yehudim Gashmim la'asid lavik. Why the la'asid lavik? It's only a Moreh Chazal, Psukim, telling us about Murdik Zachim will get la'asid lavik. Mashiach comes. And things that were growing on trees will be able to eat the tree itself. And who cares? Mashiach's coming. Malar is Hashem v'ayam mechasim. So who needs all these inyanim? So maybe you could come and say that it's just to be moided us, even people that don't care. But then you're being shoyla, but then you're saying there's no shaykhs to those that do care. That are ruchni and don't care about these inyanim. There's a whole back and forth. And the Kudah that Rebbe says is, when Mashiach comes, the world is going to be in sync with Torah, right? Completely in sync the way Torah is. So that's in a perfect world. We learn Torah and Kayim mitzvahs, and it's not the Geshmeichim Beita. Not mitzvah schar. It's not Geshmeichim Beita. It's not a schar. It's not schar mitzvah. You do what I want. You fulfill the contract. You go according to the rules. I'll give you what you need. It's automatic. The Torah is if the Reis and Pikasois from Welt. Torah is the Makar from Welt. And that's in a perfect world. When Torah is Kediboi, Yisrael are Kediboi, and the whole world is Shul Torah V'Shul Yisrael. So when Torah and Yisrael are on top, the world is the way it should be. In Zman HaGalos, there are all kinds of minis, Kuvim, and somehow you can have a matziv of Tzaddik Viraloi, and Rasha V'Toivlei. Tzaddik and doesn't have a good life, and Rasha has a good life. That's a shayla. How could that happen? And that's taka shayla we've been dealing with for many generations, and there aren't perfect answers. Meaning, at the end of the day, sometimes the answer is shtoikachol machshava. We don't always understand it, but in a proper world, the ruchis and gashmias are kulachat. So when things are the boy ruchis are gashmias. The dogma that Rebbe brings the mashal someone dancing by chassan. What's the word dancing by chassan? So he goes to his wedding. He goes to a wedding. So a guy goes, especially a chachzunas bro yechidei, which is born in Chassidus as the ultimate simcha. So you're at the chassan. The person is happy. Happy means that you're dancing and you're clapping. No, happy means that you're happy. But the regesh is so strong that it's choyder till the akiv sheberegel, till the lowest part of the body, because the entire body is bottle and in sync with the nefesh. Person will come and say, I'm sitting here, I'm super happy. Very nice. But if you would taka be happy, you would dance. So that's one. One oifen is that it's a bitur. It's a bitur, which Abbtzan connects to the word that the Rebbe says in the Sichos, that the others were merkava, the guf were merkava, in the hainu. Their nefesh and guf were one. If your nefesh is there, your guf is going to follow. The oilam is going to follow. The emes is that there's also farkeret. There's also farkeret. Right, the Rebbe Mitzayin, Igros Rebbe Mitzayin to it, also in the Sichos, the famous letter that Tzemach Tzedek, where he gives an answer about how to deal with pachad and how to be with simcha. And one of the onim he says there is that even if you're not in the mood of simcha, do tnuas of simcha. Yasa, do tnuas of simcha. B'yadayim, b'raglayim, start dancing, clap, smile. What's the word? I'm depressed. Why am I happy? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about human beings that the nefesh and guf or kulachar, right? That's the word nefesh and guf are not two different things that end up together by mistake. The guf are the guf chai, and the nefesh is poil through the guf. At the end of the day, when the guf put itself in a tnua of simcha, even if the nefesh is not there, it could be goyrim the nefesh to go there. But we know the ultimate. Well, you see that ultimately the guf is poil on the nefesh. If you're tired, your brain doesn't work. You can't think. What's the shaykh's tiredness to thinking? This is a nefesh in, and because your body it doesn't have koyach. So stuff they're totally zebazeh. So you have both ways. You have either that the ikr is the ruchni and the ruchni brech durch and is poil on the gashmi, or I use the gashmi as a tool. At the end of the day, I'm here in this world and I want to connect the ruchnias. So sometimes you do physical actions. We always do these things. There's certain stuff that you do that are ma'ir the lev, and stuff that you do that are ma'ir the moyach, and get you thinking. So you see this. You see, let's say, if you come to chas, you see people dancing. So you have one of two. Either the guy is so happy he's dancing, or the chaverman came and was like, okay, let me dance and it'll get me in the mood. But what if a guy would come to you and say, there's a third oif. You're not dancing because you're happy, and you're not dancing to make you happy. Why are you dancing? And also not for simchas chasam mekal to make the chasam think that you're happy. Why are you dancing? Because das is their inyan. L'kayim mitzvah simcha. One second, but I don't enjoy dancing, and I'm not getting anything out of it, and there's no reason why I'm doing it. No, in them, it's simcha. Yeah, people that can do this a lot. Yeah, it's a chiyuv on the etzem rikud. So the average guy would say, what kind of teichel is that? There's nothing to that. Just clap your hands. Why? No reason. And that's the word of the Matan Torah. Matan Torah is basically the Eibusher telling us, and gives us mitzvahs maisius, that from now on, you know what religion is? It's dancing, not because you're happy, and not to bring you to ecstasy. Dancing l'shem dancing. And walking. Right? So there's mamish no teich. Not mila'el, not mila'ra, not mila'fanam, not mila'achra. So by the obvious, that was the teichen of the Ma'aseh Poil. Because that was the teichen of the Ma'aseh Poil, so there always was some Ma'aseh Poil, but the pratim weren't so important. So Labashal. Gebrach nechsidis, that by Yaakov Avinu, he was Mekayim mitzvahs tefillin. How? Through the maklis. Make the simonim on the maklis for the sheep. And that's always yet to tefillin. A guy would come today and do tefillin on the sticks. That's not tefillin. You have to take oil of a behemoth, put it on your arm. Because the Gashmi's then was a tool. Either it was a tool or it was an outcome. It was a titzah. So the Prophet wants to say there. A guy will come and say, you have to be happy. You're happy, you dance. Does it make a difference if I dance this kind of dance? If I go in a circle, or I go straight, or I make a kula? The guy's mishugging, the guy's asking how to dance. Figure out whatever works for you. But if the hadgasha is the dance itself, okay, so which dances the Eibusher want? And that's what the Eibusher wants. The Eibusher wants a whole bunch of dry mitzvahs. And comes the Ben Chacham and says, I know what mitzvahs are all about. So what are these dry, senseless mitzvahs? And the answer is that the tshuva is we went through Mitzrayim, which appears from Matan Torah. By Matan Torah, the Eibusher, it's interesting, the Rebbe says the beer here, but says very, very bekitzer. In the Sichos, this mamish, in this, and also Mamor of Shavuos, it's brought a lot. Especially the Mugad Gemaimer, Vayidaber Chavtes, and many Sichos, where the Rebbe brings the Maimer Chazal, that the mitzvahs of it were Reichos, Vavalonu Shemen Turak Shmecha, that basically the mitzvahs Matan Torah come from Atzmos, and Atzmos Just like he's not Gashmi, he's not Ruchni, or his Hecher von Alts. And by Atzmus, it's all one thing. Was will the Eivishter? And the Eivishter wants Maisa B'Poyel, Asiya Le'ela, and Dafka, the fact that there is no Gilui, there's no Seichel, there's no Midas, that's what connects to the Eivishter. It's not us building a relationship to the Eivishter, it's the Eivishter building a relationship with us and telling us how to go about that relationship. The Rebbe goes on and asks, that if that's the case, Eschem, so that explains we could say that Eschem is shoylel the ovis, and Eschem only means the parents. But there was a better way. Say Yisanu, and then say you're shoylel the ovis, and say you don't bring the suffix or the lack of clarity on where is the Chacham himself in this parsha. It's interesting that multiple times the Rebbe says l'chayra. Right, Tzarech l'havim de l'chayra, the beginning of Sif Beis, and then 4 lines later, Abozel Yamuvin l'chayra, Gam k'shaya emer b'lashon keli yeser shayir siv like no yisanu. The Rebbe is very, the Rebbe is very not forceful about it, and I think the vart is because it's only a l'chayra. Because yesh makim leimer take that there is a mile eschem over yisanu for the etzem vart. Because at the end of the day, Yisanu is very inclusive. It's very inclusive. When I say us, it would say often Yeder von Eich and Yeder von uns. When you say us is everybody. So Taka, he's not saying explicitly the others. Right? In Sif Aleph, then the first guy in Sif Aleph, we brought 2 options. Either say Yisanu or say Elikenu without saying anything. L'chayra, what the Rebbe is timing is, the way the Rebbe learns it is that the biur only answers the second half. Why we don't say Shatiu Avayu Bichlal? Because we're trying to exclude someone here. But why we use Eschem and not Isanu, that's a Shaila that's still sitting here, and that Rebbe has to be here in base. But at the end of the day, Isanu also doesn't exclude. It doesn't really say, us can be anybody. When you say Eschem, you're excluding. The moment you exclude, who you're excluding here? Saying Nechanami, the Lashon is a bit dangerous because it sounds like, what's going on with the Ben Chacham Alein. Mitzad Sheni, L'chayra, there is a mile in Eschem that we're not including everybody. Fine, Maimer Muzgir. Then the Rebbe goes on and asks the Shaila, and this Shaila is what makes the Rebbe pivot from the regular beer of Chassidus, that if the whole Vart, the way Chassidus Mevar, the whole Vart is that what's the Teichen of the new mitzvahs, the post-Matan Torah mitzvahs that are all about Maaseh, then what's the Pshat? Ma Eides Chukim HaMishpatim. Eides Chukim HaMishpatim is all about Kavanah. In Maaseh mitzvahs, there's no Eides Chukim HaMishpatim, it's all Kavanah-oriented divisions. So if the whole Vart is with the Chiddush of mitzvahs of Matan Torah and all Maaseh B'Poyel, then the question is Iker Chasam Naseder. And other questions on the Seder, Eides Chukim HaMishpatim, etc. So this leads the Rebbe in Sif Gimel to the new Shaila. How does it ever come to the new Shaila? The Yuvans of Behektim, what the Friedrich Rebbe wrote in his Maimer, in the Diuk of the Shailas of En Chacham Ksiv Eschem, it's in the 3rd line of Sif Gimel, okay. But here's the Moisef Maimer. This is a Yisafa that the Friedrich Rebbe has that isn't brought in the earlier Mamarim, in Nundal, in Nateres, and then the Mittel Rebbe, it's Tzedek, etc. It's an added diuk of Friedrich Rebbe. By this added diuk, the Rebbe sees a Pesach to a new beer.
And in Vayakim Eidos, the Rebbe does not answer this, doesn't clearly answer, Friedrich Rebbe doesn't clearly answer this diuk that we're bringing.
But Nachman, not only doesn't answer, the answer goes for Kert. So what's the diuk? The diuk is Moiseh Maimer, the Agam Shad Ben Chacham Emer Avayilikenu, Shu Machnis Atzmei B'Klal Yisrael, M'Kal V'Machu Shemayim, Herozeo B'Negel Lo Yikr. You know what Maimer now? Zeo B'Negel Lo Yikr. B'Negel Lo Pirte Yon Yon Yidus Chukim Mishpatim Hu Emer Eschem. Friedrich Rebbe adds a diuk right earlier in Chassidus. We said the Chayrebah, and he says Vayilikenu Eschem. Like it's like the Ben Rasha. Ma'avoy Does Lachem. He's being shoyl. Elamai, but he says Elikenu. He's bavarining. Don't worry, I'm within the fold. I'm part of the chevra. But why get into such an issue? So So the Friedrich Rebbe goes weiter. Friedrich Rebbe says, no, it's not. The issue is not fully taken care of by saying Yisanu, by saying Avayli Kenu. It's not like Eschem is the issue, but Avayli Kenu evens it out. So we're cool, but why go there? No, even after Avayli Kenu, the issue still stands. Not only the issue still stands, in a certain way, the Avayli Kenu magnifies the issue. Why? Because when someone tells you a sentence where in the middle of the sentence they change language, Avayli Kenu Eschem, it seems like it's very, very. If we weren't saying, they wouldn't say this clearly, but if you weren't saying Avayli Kenu, okay, sometimes that people speak that language. Like I'm talking in second person. I'm not talking about myself. Well, it's a lot more comfortable to speak. I'm talking about me. Right? But when a person says Avayli Kenu, so you are Koil Alat. Then you say Eschem. So it seems that you are, but you're not. You're not you are including yourself, but you're excluding yourself in certain inyanim. In which inyanim? So based on what we said earlier, the Eichuk Mishpatim, now it makes sense. That l'chayra, the Havan of the Ben, in the Shadow Ben Chacham is that he's a Avayli Kenu. I accept him as Eli Kenu, which is the Klal. I accept the Eibishter as the Eibishter. I accept the Eibishter as the Eibishter, and I accept his mitzvahs, etc. Asher Tziva Avayli Kenu Eschem is the Eidus Chukim Mishpatim. That he's struggling with, l'chayra, this is what it's implied, he's struggling with the Eidus Chukim Mishpatim. That bothers him. Okay. So, what does Rebbe learn from here? Should start to be your Lama Oimer Eschem. It seems that the question isn't only why he says Eschem, which is like what's brought in other Mamarim. Like Gamba Zesha Oimer Eschem Veloya Isanu. Leideze Yeshmokim Lite Zesha Oimer Alikenu Machnes Atzvei Bichlal Hurak B'nei Geya La Iker. B'nei Geya La Pratin Yanyan Veis Chuk Mishpatim Veis Yatzim Min HaKlal. Right? What the Rebbe is learning here is that l'ch'eira, there's a very stark what he's saying is that he's mekabelo malchus shamayim. What he's struggling with is eidus chukim u'mishpatim. So what does the Rebbe learn from here? So the Rebbe learns here that the mitzvahs. There's different inyanim in the mitzvahs. There's the inyan klali in the pratim, and then he finishes off in Siv Gimel. Which means the same word again, that is moisi atzim min haklal. Now this often goes on until, where does this finish? This finishes in Siv Zayin. We're here Siv Zayin, the beginning of the second ket of Siv Zayin. There's a master from Tchilas HaMaimer, Yeshalas Ben Chacham, Ma Ha'edus Chukim Mishpatim, He Dekei Mash Kol Mitzvim Tzvoi Hashem, Lama Hei Nechlakis Ve'edus Chukim Mishpatim. Kanal Siv Gimel. Right? So the Rebbe is learning from the Friedrich Rebbe that that's the Shaila of the Ben Chacham. The Shaila of the Ben Chacham is, I accept the Inyan Klali, but I don't accept Edus Chukim Mishpatim. So what's interesting is, the Rebbe learns here that the Friedrich Rebbe is Hava Mineh, but it's not even a Hava Mineh. It's not even correct to call it a Hava Mineh. It's the Friedrich Rebbe being marchiv in the shaila, but not that that's the pshat of the shaila seben chacham. Verkehrt. And that he's looking for an answer on that issue. V'haraya. What's the answer the Friedrich Rebbe brings to the shaila of the ben chacham? The answer he brings is the answer in Sif Aleph. Nekuda sabir b'zeh b'adroshin. 14. Rei. The last Maramah. Yaakov made the stuff shit. Right? So the Friedrich Rebbe's answer is the regular answer of Chassidus. Now, Hokuf definitely verstehen. If the Friedrich Rebbe starts off asking, or he's mevayer in the pshat of the question of the Ben Chacham, he says that the shaila is that he's bothered by the Eidus Chukim Mishpatim. So what kind of answer is that? That the mitzvahs matter matan Torah are about ma'aseh b'poil. What kind of answer is that? Right? So obviously that's not the pshat. We'll get to in a second what L'chayra Friedrich Rebbe means. But Vinashvi, he brings it in that context of leading to the answer that the Avodah is all about Ma'aseh B'Poel today. And what's the Ma'ila, and why how could it be only Ma'aseh B'Poel? Because the Amshachas Atzmos happens through Ma'aseh. But from them, what the Rebbe does here, and this is Bechlal, so you see this, it's not the only Ma'ir, you see this in different Mamarim, especially when you look at when the Rebbe's Medayik and the Friedrich Rebbe's Mamarim, famous about the Tetzaveh, V'oid, that the Rebbe doesn't necessarily say the same beer Friedrich Rebbe says, but from the Oisius, from the Chidush Inyan, from the Shinoi of how the Friedrich Rebbe is Medayik in an Inyan. Like you see over here, he changes, he adds a small point, he adds a line that isn't brought by the previous Rebbeim. The Rebbe already sees here, the Friedrich Rebbe is already starting a Naya beer. Tavshin, the Friedrich Rebbe doesn't go to the new beer. The beer is the same beer as Rakhim Chassidus. But now the Rebbe is going to take it to a whole new beer. I mentioned earlier about the beer of America. This is where the American beer starts. Right? What was until now, this was the beer B'chlal and Chassidus. And Tavshin, the Friedrich Rebbe is already starting a new Mahal. This is still there. The Tzveit Mahal, there's still more Mahalchim coming. There's a new Mahal. Now, what's the Pshat in the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer? So in the Maimer Ki Yeshalcha. So where does he bring this? The Shaila is let's see if I'm at 43. So first of all, you see this on page 24 of the Kovetz, page 44 of the Maimer. So the way the Friedrich Rebbe brings it is he's in the middle of the page, towards the bottom of the page. He's saying the Ben Chacham is similar to the Ben Rasha, because he also says Eschem. But Take, the Ben Chacham says Avayali Keinus, he's Machnis Atzmai B'Klal Yisrael, and he's not like the Ben Rasha that's Moitzi Afim in a Klal. But the Ben Chacham also says Eschem. The Hainu. It's all part of him trying to explain the Ma'il of Ben Chacham over the Ben Rosh. But then he says that the Taka that he's Makabel Oil Machusi is Barech, but nevertheless only when you get to the Ikar, he's Yisrael. On the Pirtei Yanyanim, he says Eschem. Mashenk in the Rasha is Anish. But he finishes off with this in the Kud. The Chayra we see over here that the Ben Chacham, the Chayra does struggle with the Pirtei Yanyan. So he struggles with the Pirtei Yanyan. להמשיך לזה comes the next Maimer. It's going to take a little time. Where are we holding now? I'll send some follow-up to this about this Nekuda. Therefore, so Reinlearn and how it fits into the Mahalach here of the Maimer. The Nekuda is here in the beginning of Sif Gimel, of the next Maimer of the Yochim Eidos. He starts going into it, of what the place of the Ben Chachams, the Ben Chacham here is in this, and then Hamshel Hazei gets says, I'll be mashing that later. But Vinashvi, I want to bring out this Nekuda that number one, the Rebbe is learning a new beer Friedrich Rebbe doesn't learn, but the Rebbe is also learning the Friedrich Rebbe's Havamina as a maskana. Or that's Taka the Pshat in Shalas Ben Chacham. Friedrich Rebbe is bringing it as an issue. Why does the Ben Chacham speak that way? Because that's the mashmos. The Rebbe says no, is Taka, that's the mashmos, and Zaykumtois, and that's his issue. In this new Mahalach, the issue of the Ben Chacham is what is the place of Eidos Chukim Mishpatim, because he understands Ma'aseh B'Poel, that he gets. He's already the next stage. Fine, Ma'aseh V'Yikr. So was tut the chilukim of Eidos Chukim Mishpatim.